Good afternoon, everybody. Hello, this is Indrani Ghosh. I am going to conduct this webinar on the CII Food Safety Assessor Refresher Training today. The program objectives is that by the end of this session, you would have received the glimpses of the award till last year, the revisions in the criteria which have been introduced in 2015, the pre-site visit must-dos that we have identified based on the feedback of last year's assessment, focus on assessing enablers and linked results for the subsections, and we're documenting the same in the feedback reports. We are also going to discuss the importance of what and how we communicate in the opening and the closing meeting so that the company, the applicant, is well prepared to receive the feedback. Site visit this year, we are putting it to 3 to 4 days, not 2 to 4 days like last year. It is also, we would be speaking about we will brief you about the opportunities for independent consultants. And in the appendix of this particular webinar PPT, which will be circulated to you in the next 2 days, you will also have what we had before, the roles of the senior assessor, assessors, applicants, conduct, disclaimer, etc. Okay, so glimpses of the award 2010 to 2014. Besides the number of applicants which have grown by leaps and bounds ever since 2010, it has grown by more than 8 times. The number of assessors have grown by more than 7 times. And today we are at much more, having a pool of 249 food professionals from the food industries as trained assessors. Let me start by thanking you for your excellent and tremendous contribution to the CII National Award for Food Safety till last year. It has really received a wonderful feedback, and companies are very happy, with this particular program. The members of the jury, after the on-site assessment, were Mr. Ravi Mathur, Chairman of the Jury, CII National Award for Food Safety. He is the Chairman of the CII Expert Group also, as well as the CEO of GS1. Dr. Uttam Kumar Chatterjee, CEO TPM Solutions, Professor Ram Rajashekharan, Director CFTRI Mysore, as well as Ms. Harita Vashireddy, Managing Director Vimta Laboratories. As you see here, besides the food professionals from the industry, the evaluation process for the CII National Award for Food Safety has actually involved the entire spectrum of stakeholders to food. The top 36 food safety recognition winners were last year, have been listed in this particular slide, and we have been able to, since last year, we have been able to provide a wide visibility for the recognition winners. Number one was the contributory advertorial that we had last year in the Business Standard, all editions, color, on December 5th. Secondly, we have the Z Business telecast the award ceremony over 2 days post-event. We have the award story publication from this year, which I will show you in my next slides. The CII communique, which reaches out to more than 7,000 CEOs across the globe, had contained the details of the award winners as well as the award methodology. Also, the Gala Awards night was there. I think most of you were lucky enough to, be part of that. And of course, the other press clippings that have come out. Now we are coming up also with a directory it will be a pocketbook sized directory where the recognition winners would be listed out. This is how the award story publication, just some excerpts, some clippings have been taken out from the award story publication, where the top 36, all the 36 recognition winners, their logos as well as the photographs of the award winners have all been displayed in the several pages, along with how the award has been, the assessments have taken place, and who has been the jury, etc. Some details. It's just a very short flyer brochure kind of a document, and it has reached almost everybody. You would have also received this particular document. So now let's come to the new criteria and the revisions of 2015. This year we have introduced the criteria 6 and 6A. 6 and 6A are two different criteria. 6 is including the manufacturers of pesticides, cleaning and sanitation, whereas 6A includes the criteria for food packaging. So why, the question may be coming up that why 6 and 6A separately? You see, for packaging, the ISO 22002-4, which is the GFSI approved prerequisites for the packaging, food packaging industry, has been incorporated in the criteria of 6A. And the one that is for packaging is not really applicable to the manufacture of pesticides as well as the cleaning and sanitation. So hence there are two criteria, two sub-criteria in this. A little bit about what criteria 6 is all about. The manufacture of pesticides, cleaning and sanitation is more or less the same as the manufacturing criteria 3. The only difference is in the weightages allocated to each of the subsections. That is, the subsections of prerequisite programs, the subsections of the HACCP part of it, the management system structure part of it. Whereas the sector-specific GMP as well as a change management initiative remains the same. Once again, I would also like to reiterate that till last year, we have the street food, we have the SMB, and in SMB, we were able to differentiate between small as well as medium because there were large number of applications. We had the large and we had the rising star. So the rising star, as most of you would know, are applicants which have been in operations for less than 3 years. The table 1 award assessment criteria has undergone a change since because the last row has been introduced. Food chain input providers, that is manufacture of cleaning, food equipment, pest control, criteria 6, food packaging manufacture criteria 6A. So this is the new addition. By and large, the broad criteria has not changed. The CII food safety excellence model remains the same as last year. Now, let us come to the street food standard, which is now criteria 1. Last year, it was an upgraded, criteria. However, this year, we have still kept it unchanged. So it is just like last year. Criteria 2. Now the score distribution has changed here in criteria 2 as well as criteria 3. We have highlighted the highest possible score of prerequisite programs, which now stands at 350 as compared against last year's 300. The jury and the awards committee and a lot of the assessors and senior assessors felt that more priority should be given to the prerequisite programs, and hence now if you see the distribution of the scores, prerequisite has 350, sector specific remains unchanged for criteria 2, which is for hotels, restaurants, catering, etc., 150, and change management initiatives remains at 150, just like last year. In criteria 2, the change is in food safety management system structure highest possible score also. It is now at 175, whereas last year it was 200. That is because we have now accorded higher priority to the prerequisite program section. Hence, we had to reduce food safety management system 175 and hazard analysis and critical control point 175. The same holds true for criteria 3, which is for manufacturing. By and large, the checkpoints remain the same, but the overall score for prerequisite is the same as now for criteria 2, which is 350. Because of this change, higher weightages, actually there has been a tweaking of the weightages for the prerequisite programs B1.1 to 1.14. So the subsections have undergone slight changes in the weightages as per the jury recommendations. Sector specific remains the same, change management initiatives remain the same. Once again, the criteria 3, the food safety management system structure is 175, as well as HACCP has also been reduced to 175 instead of 200 before. Now, the marks distribution for criteria 4, which is for transportation, carrying and forwarding agents, warehouse, as well as retail, it remains the same. It is unchanged. It was a new introduction last year. This year, it remains the same. For criteria 5, which is for primary production, it has remained the same. It was introduced last year. For criteria 6, now this criteria 6, which is meant for, which I mentioned, the cleaning and sanitation, pest control, equipment manufacturer, the score distribution remains the same as the old manufacturing. That is because we wanted to verify this, assess the effectiveness of this distribution this year without changing it, and then maybe next year, based on the feedback of the assessors as well as the senior assessors and the jury and the awards committee, we would review it once again, the score distribution. So just now, criteria 6 is same as old criteria 3, but the allocation from in the prerequisite programs 1 to 14 has changed. Same with criteria number 6 for section B2, that is the HACCP part of it, of the FSMS structure. There has been slight tweaking in the allocation of the separate weightages to the different subsections here. Criteria 6 here, I think I've mentioned it. It is based on now ISO 20002-4. This year, the maturity bands have also been amended. We will start from the last row. The least count remains the same, 5. Yes, you have to maintain 5. Now the no evidence or anecdotal is now at 0 to 20, whereas last year it was 0 to 10. The idea behind this was that a score of 20 could indicate that there is some awareness on the practices, but maybe the implementation is a bit anecdotal. So someone could get 20. Please do not score anybody 0 or 100 in any of the sections. It could be not applicable. Any is fine, but not 0 or 100. There is also a change in the next level, that is basic. Now it is 25 to 45. Competitive is between 50 to 70. Advanced is between 75 to 85. And world class is 90 to 100, remains the same. The section C remains the same, that is sector specific good manufacturing practices with a better articulation, that is sector specific GMP based on relevant codes and practices as well as best practices. Assess sector specific requirements and best practices for the following. And this is where, earlier there was the word utilities. We have removed it because utilities was becoming an overlap. It was an overlap with the prerequisite programs. Now, some pre-site visit must-dos. Please ensure that you are assessing against the correct criteria. So it's important that you have the correct assessment format, which will be sent by us once, that is by CII. I will personally send this to you all, the assessment format, once you finalize the dates of the assessment. Please reconfirm the number of product lines. Reconfirm the scope prior to the site visit. Utilize a process flow chart, although all applicants have been requested to provide a process flow chart and an organization chart. Sometimes they forget to do so. Please ask for it after you receive the application document. If you find that the process flow chart is missing, please ask for it, because that is what is going to help you to prepare for the sector-specific GMP and the HACCP plan assessment. The organization chart is required for planning your site visit. This year, we are recommending that you please utilize minimum 3 to 4 days of site visit, and that excludes the travel. So what we are saying is that we are allocating 3 to 4 assessors for each of the assessment. If somehow the number of assessors drops down to 2, you should increase the number of site visit days by at least 1 day. So allocate 3 days for the site visit, plus 1 day for travel in, 1 day for travel out. So that is a 5 days program. Now, if one assessor drops out at the last moment, as a senior assessor, you should, speak to the applicant and increase the day of assessment by 1 day to do justice to it. But it should not be less than 3 assessors. With 2 assessors, that is what you do. Allocate 1 day for consensus feedback scoring executive summary. Request company to make a presentation covering data and information on strengths. It is a very good practice to have the company present a PowerPoint presentation, along with any videos and photos of best practices. So you can request the company to make that presentation, because it really sets the context very well. Also, senior assessor is the one point contact with the applicant company. Now, senior assessor discusses with the team members, and you must arrive at a suitable set of dates for the site visit. Please try completing it by mid-August. You will receive the intimation of being part of an assessor team, hopefully by the first week of June, and assessments should best be started by June itself. So please speak to the companies immediately as a senior assessor. So the senior assessor speaks to the team members and then speaks to the company. So requesting for guide, familiarizing yourself with the assessment format, carrying a laptop is mandatory, reference standards, etc. These will help you to enable or provide value-adding feedback in the report. Now, we have to also, give an idea to the applicant company about what the opening meeting should, contain. So this year, we have changed the agenda of the opening meeting presentation by the company. So if the senior assessor actually communicates this slide, to the applicant, they would be ready with a focused presentation that is going to help you to prepare the report. Please remember, as an assessor team, the outcome and the output that is expected from you is a solid, profound written report, because that is the one that is going to be used for calibration. That is the one that is going to be assessed by the awards committee, and that is the one that is going to be the basis of assessment by the jury. So a weak report actually, puts the company at a disadvantage, the applicant at a disadvantage. So please devote a lot of time to the report writing. It is not just going and asking questions and raising exception reports. No, you must write down the strengths also. Okay, so when we are speaking about a good report, which I did till last year, I think sometimes some of us, we felt that, we must also know how to exactly make that report, profound and sound for the next levels of evaluation. Hence, you have to make assessment of the enablers, link results, and then record the findings. As far as it is concerned, just now, the word enablers and link results are jargons. So it is necessary that we understand exactly what it means. Now, focus on capturing and recording examples of approaches, deployment, improvements, and result trends, targets, and benchmarks. So, your interview questions must be related to these aspects. You need not necessarily record procedure numbers or record numbers in the feedback report. Please don't put proc number so and so provides the procedure for calibration. It is not required. But as an assessor team, if you make a comment on what the calibration is like, that it is a effective calibration system. However, the calibration needs to be extended to the shop floor or to the some other department. These kind of qualifying remarks would actually help in the assessment in the next level or the jury. So your qualifying descriptive remarks and results on food safety, the comparisons that you indicate with best in class, these are what will help the jury understand the level of the maturity better. Basically, you would be reporting from a third-party perspective for the next phases of the evaluation. So I will just explain this example to you. Most of your report would be in this format. So this is just one, we've taken one example of a prerequisite program. So on the left hand side, the question says, are site boundaries clearly identified and free of vegetation, standing water, and parkings? And the next question is access to the site controlled? Number one, you must remember that these two questions are not exhaustive. They are indicative. You can ask more related questions, related to this particular subject, particular topic, particular aspect. All right. So in the next column, you have this yes and yes. So if they are complying to these things, you just put a yes and that is enough. Do not copy paste what is written on the left hand side on the right hand side. Now if you read the right hand side, what have they written? They have actually described 1.4. What have they said? There was a boundary wall with security postings at 3 points. With appropriate paving, sloping, and clean drainage systems, standing water around the bean factory is prevented effectively. So the statement is saying what has been the approach, at how many points that approach has been deployed. 3 points. What exactly is that approach? Appropriate paving, sloping, and clean drainage systems. And what has it done? It has effectively prevented standing water in the main factory, around the main factory. Okay, so we have actually qualified that remark. However, there were signs of algal growth in a few external walls, although these did not impact food safety of processed and packaged products directly. So now there is a small little OFI, but we can make out that the OFI is not directly impacting their food safety. And where is it not affecting? Processed and packed products directly. So we would like you to think this way and articulate your remarks and findings this way. Now look at the next line. Parking of the two-wheelers and visitors' car are in designated areas. Access control at all 3 entries are strictly monitored by manual security checks. Gate. So now, we are saying that these security postings were actually manual. So we are trying to, give an idea that maybe the best in class was not there. So we are saying gate pass and color-coded badges are given at the time of the entry to the vendors, contractual workers, and visitors. For potential intruders, there is an alarm system installed on the boundary walls. Wonderful. So now you've said exactly that while the posting was manual, but there are alarm systems which would automatically go off, if there was intrusion. And then you talk a little bit about the result, the linked result. In 2013, 2 such attempts of intrusions were prevented through the CCTV coverage. So if you see, when we say enablers and results must be part of a finding, the top part of it was the enablers, which described the approach, it described the deployment, and in the last section, we are talking about what results it has given. So then, this is how anyone would understand the maturity, and then if you say 80%, you will be able to justify it. That why you're giving 80%, because maybe still it is not world class. There was a small little OFI which maybe directly did not impact immediately, but it could have impacted later. So it was just short of world class. So 80 to 85 would have been fine. So this is how you have to think of doing the articulation. Please remember, this is the output we are expecting from assessors. Okay, so just as a summary, tick yes, no, not applicable against each checkpoint in a subsection, which we did in the last one where we said yes, yes. And then the gist of key strength and OFI to justify scores in a subsection. So that is what we wrote in the findings in my last slide. Okay, what do we mean by gist of key strengths and OFIs? That means on the right-hand side of the remarks column, as an assessor, after writing down the remarks, you must ask, have I written the enablers? Have I written the outcome? So the enabler related to the subsection, what were the enablers in the slide that I showed? The enablers were, security postings, alarms, different color-coded badges for for different classes of visitors and people who are entering. So those were the enablers. What was the outcome? 2-3 intrusions were detected by the CCTV. So, some result is also given in there. So please remember. So most of the time, if you see till last year, we were finding that assessors were writing their enablers to some extent, but they were not writing the linked results, that is the outcome in the sections. In most of the sections, there would be some outcome that could be written there. Okay, so enablers is basically what? It is what the unit does. Write comments on whether structured, rational or aligned approaches, whether man-machine material method has been deployed in how many processes and in how many processes, whether the approach is implemented in all relevant processes. Tell us which processes have been left out, with those particular approaches. You have to also make a comment on whether regular reviews are done of the approaches through which, and are there some improvements in the process. If you answer these questions, you will find that you have been able to write a profound enabler. But just writing an enabler is not all. You also need to write down the result in that particular subsection. So what does result mean? Please put down trends of that, targets, comparison with best in class, whether results are caused by approaches, whether results cover all relevant areas. Once again, I don't want to jargonize this whole thing. Let me give you some examples of it. So this is what we discussed just now, and this is the summary. Okay. Now these are the examples I was talking about. Examples of the results linked to the subsections. Now for assessing the outcome aspects here of a maintenance activity, there is one point on maintenance in prerequisite programs. So what would be the linked results? Linked results could be if you could give, the trend of the equipment-wise breakdown, which the company is monitoring, overall equipment efficiency, maybe mean time between failures, or any others. So the whole crux of this is that at the opening meeting, hand over a list of results that you are expecting. A second example. An example linked to subsection, which is say for process control activities. How would you know that your process control activities? First, you write about what exactly they've done for the process control. Then you should say whether this process control that they have done, whether it is effective or not. How would you know that? If you could tabulate some results on work in process, test results, some test results of finished goods, rework percentage trends, reject percentage trends, customer complaint segmented data. If you were able to just give some kind of trends on these you would have, made a very good articulation of exactly, what was the finding for a process control activity assessment. Similarly, if you were doing an assessment of corrective actions, what would we expect you to write? You could write whether the company is using tools for root cause analysis and which tools they are using. You could say that the company is using YY analysis, system problem solving, etc. Whether mistake proofing and solution and revised SOPs are required. So, as required was put in place. So you can say that there were so many projects taken up, as corrective action projects, and there so many mistake proofings were done. Then how many people were trained, on these revised processes related to the corrective actions? Whether it has finally prevented recurrence, and then you could make a comment on, whether the documented procedure and the records of the corrective actions were there or not. You don't have to write down the name or the number of the procedure number for the corrective action. Okay. So now, analysis of all these trends, of customer complaints, breakdown percent, expired products, food safety audit performances, inventory control, rework percent, recurring non-compliances, scrap percent, number of FSMS improvements, employee participation in improvement activities, and any other food safety indices are required to be carried out by the assessor to assess the maturity of the food safety systems. So this is what exactly is meant by the maturity. Now, when you are recording opportunities for improvement, when do you have to record opportunities for improvement? The must-dos. Opportunities for improvement must be part of your finding which has a score of less than 90%. You have to write down the opportunity for improvement there. Opportunity for improvement should identify the gap on the enablers or the results. It may also mention the impact on the gap of the food safety, and it should preferably not be a recommendation of the solution. For 90% or more, excellent practices and results must be recorded to justify world-class scores. So, for this 90% or more, we are actually looking at excellent strengths. You need to put that out. So, hence, please remember, by saying yes, yes, and no, no, and then leaving the right hand out is the worst kind of a report that we can expect from the assessors. Please don't do that, because that just indicates compliance. It could be anything from a score of 40% to 95%. Please just write what exactly has been the OFI or the strength. Okay. Since reporting is such an important aspect, it's the most important aspect of the assessment. That is why we spent the last few minutes discussing how you should write that report. Now let us come to what we communicate in the opening and the closing meeting. Let me tell you, many a time we find that applicants are they feel very let down when the results are announced, because they feel that they deserved an award, they deserve the recognition. Now, what can the assessors do? First of all, the assessors have to communicate that this is not a certification audit of non-compliances. So it is different from just identifying non-compliances. Here you have only opportunities for improvement. Opportunities for improvement could be of any order. It could be of a basic level. The opportunity of a living for improvement could be a advanced level. It could be a competitive level, or it could be a world-class level. So it is, first of all, in the opening meeting, as the senior assessor, you are supposed to orient the applicant on the award process. Since last year, we have been providing you with an opening meeting presentation. Please go through that and explain the award process well. You must also communicate to them, as the assessor team, that there are 3 more stages of evaluation after this on-site assessment. So they should not hold you responsible if the company does not get a recognition, because this is all relative. This is all based on best in class as well as relative performance of the other applicants. You also need to communicate that this is not an audit of document and records only, but an assessment of maturity of their FSMS. Okay, so in the opening meeting, like last year, I think most of you are aware, and all those who have gone through the course, these were the agenda points. I would just like to draw your attention on the red lines. First of all, when the PPT that we share with you, just insert the names, designations, and the criteria number. Otherwise, it's more or less a standard presentation. The total presentation time should be about 45 minutes to max 1 hour. So in the 45 minutes to 1 hour, CII presentation should not exceed more than 15 minutes. The rest of the time should be given, half an hour, should be given to the company. Okay. Also, I'll draw your attention to the next red line, 4 stages of award evaluation and its schedule. Please mention that. Explain the process of closing meeting and the consensus meeting. Many of the applicants have not even attended the assessor training. So they would not really know what that consensus meeting is, where you stay holed up in the hotel room, doing that consensus meeting. So please explain that, also to them so that they understand the process. You have to tell them that the closing meeting is on the second day of that on-site assessment. That means basically it's day 3. Day 1 you arrive, day 2 you do the on-site assessment, and day 3 is the closing meeting. And only then you go back and score. Okay. You must request for all key result trends. So hand over a list to them so that they provide you with the key result trends, whatever they have, for the last 3 years or for the last, 6 months wise, depending on, how that company keeps that record. So this time we are providing you with this particular list. You can go through this list and you can add in more, result parameters if you wish, and ask them to provide. So hand over this list at the opening meeting itself, just after the opening meeting, hand this over so that they can be ready with the trends and the results for you. Environmental impact, it's as same as last year. We want this information also, please capture this information and put this in the award report, feedback report. For the rigor of assessment, I think we went through this last year. All of you would be familiar. The 4 green diamonds are the 4 stages of evaluation that we are talking about. Also, please tell them that the award trophy for outstanding performance is only 1 per sector, per category, per size, and that too, sector and size award trophies would depend on how many applications the CII is receiving. Supposing we receive just 2 applications, for a dairy sector, then definitely, possibly we will have to club it, with another manufacturing sector, and we will put that name across, and the jury will make that final decision. So please explain this particular, most of the companies don't understand it. You must explain this levels of performance. Okay. At the closing meeting. Now, at the closing meeting, 30 minutes approximately, chaired by the senior assessor, after the normal thanks for the hospitality, etc., please make sure that you mention all opportunities for improvement that was detected in the organization, in that particular unit. So OFIs must be comprehensively mentioned. You must also mention good practices that you have observed. You must mention the extent of their food safety work culture. And you must also mention the extent of deployment, that is in which areas, has it been deployed. If you will find that, 2 companies having the same manuals, same food safety management system, same practices may get widely different scores. The different scores come from the difference in the food safety work culture as well as the extent of deployment most of the time. So please also, keep that in mind. If you are able to, explain this very well, let me tell you, there will be no heartbreaks, when the company gets to know the results, because you would have mentioned all OFIs, and please don't give them an impression that they can get an award, because that decision lies with, the jury after 3 more assessments subsequent to the site visit. Okay, so site visit. This is the purpose and outcome. We have put it in red. You have to prepare that report for the next 3 phases. That is what it is. I think we have already mentioned, and I have sure, the quality of the report by the assessor is of prime importance, and your name goes with the report. So it is recorded for life, what you produce. So the quality of the report is that important. Now, let us look at the site visit for 3 assessors, 3 or 4 assessors. It could be the same. So day 1, you arrive. Day 2, there is a walk around the plant. You do the assessment, the operations assessment, and you record findings in the evening. Walk around should be restricted to 1.5 hours. Please look at this text box below. Day 2 is the walk around. The walk around, why 1.5 hours? Please try to understand what is the objective of the walk around. The objective is only to understand the process layout, nothing else. You as an assessor will get many more opportunities to come back to those places, and ask more detailed questions. So to understand the process layout, you don't get any focused answers out here. So you're actually wasting time. Please remember, your on-site assessment is essentially just 1.5 days. It's just 1.5 days, not more than that. So in that 1.5 days, you will have to get an idea about, their maturity. So you cannot waste time in that walk around where you get no focused answers. Nobody gets any focused answers. So any detailed questionnaire should be, addressed later when the particular assessor comes back to the site in that particular section of assessment. Day 3, operations assessment, preparation for the closing meeting, 1 to 1.5 hours, and the closing meeting, and then recording findings in the evening. Another point, please go to the text box. The number 3 bullet point, evenings of day 2 and day 3 after 5 p.m. Please do this in the conference room of the company. We have learned from our mistakes, till last year. It is important that you do in the conference room because that will give you access to further data and information because the applicants will stay back for you. And while you should not include the applicants here, as a rule, but you can call them over, and while you're doing the writing down the, findings, you can, call them over wherever you are getting stuck and take the data from them, verify some facts and put it down. So that in evening work till minimum 8:30 is extremely important. Please continue to do it there in the conference room so that you can make the most of that visit. Day 3, complete the closing meeting from by 5 p.m. latest and stay back in the conference room again. Stay back in the conference room to key in the information. Day 4 is the consensus meeting for refining the feedback, doing the scoring, and doing the executive summary, and day 5 is depart. So if anybody wants to go to any places of interest, your time is on day 1 or day 5. But please do not, because every moment is precious for the 3 days of assessment. Okay, agenda for the consensus meeting. I think this we have already mentioned that in the consensus meeting, this is what you do. I mentioned it in my last slide. Okay, now why do we need that 12 plus hours, for the consensus meeting? See, we've just, worked it out. There are about 49 checkpoints, for the manufacturing, supposing. You're looking at manufacturing as a standard, I'm just taking it. So there are 49 checkpoints into 10. That is after you've completed everything the evenings before. So on the consensus meeting day, that is your day 4, you require minimum 490 minutes to just, sharpen refine your OFI strengths. Once you do one OFI strength, spend about 3 minutes to give it a score. So you do an individual scoring, a consensus scoring, and the total score. And the consensus score is keyed in a particular feedback report. So that will take about 147 minutes. Executive summary to be completed on that last day. Last day means, consensus meeting day. Each assessor should contribute the key points on the strengths of the OFIs from their allocated sections to the senior assessor. Otherwise, the senior assessor is going to put down in the executive summary whatever he thinks, is fit. But he wouldn't have seen all the sections. If someone has done the PRP, then that someone is the right person to say that this should get reflected in the executive summary, and this may not get reflected in the executive summary because it's not so priority for them. So that contribution must be made. So please complete the executive summary on that last day. Only fine-tuning is done offline by the senior assessor within the next 7 days and submitted to CII phase. Okay, so all scoring is on 100. So please do that scoring. You know, the consensus score is keyed in on the checkpoints. Least count is 5. Do not score, you know, so it's 70, 75, etc. Check whether the total score reflects the overall maturity level of implementation. And at least one assessment format should record all the scores comprehensively during the consensus meeting so that the total score is automatically available at the end of the consensus meeting day and sent to CII. So the key dates are like this. We have, after this, we have extended as per, you know, some requests. We have extended the submission of the application document to CII phase as June 19th. So, however, we will start doing the intimations to the assessor team with whatever we have received, you know, from the first week of June. So you should expect the, you know, the mails, whoever is getting selected, getting an opportunity. And I think you also understand how the opportunity is provided. I will go through that once again. So you should be receiving that information by 10th of June. Okay. Then awards committee meeting, award announcement, and the dispatch of the feedback reports. Now, criteria for selecting assessors. Now, one is that, you know, the first point is that participation in the 2-day assessor training, sector-specific expertise, participation in refresher course, extent of exposure to the clauses, qualified FSMS auditors, the implementation experience. Now, this implementation experience is also your last year's, if you have been a part of assessment last year. So we would have received some feedback, and that feedback is also important, you know, for doing the selection for the next year. So number of years of experience in the food industry, and you should be from a non-competitor organization. For independent food professionals, you know, you could get, there are very rewarding growth opportunities. After qualifying in the 2-day assessor training, depending on your domain expertise, you will be provided an opportunity of 2 voluntary award assessments. After this, you know, the reports are assessed, the feedback is taken from the senior assessor as well as the assessor team, and based on that, you could become empaneled. And once you become an empaneled assessor, you are entitled to a compensation, you know, for taking up food safety award assessments as per the phase stipulated rates. So, registration as assessors. Now, this brief resume of qualified assessors, you would have, you know, most of you would have filled this in. But what we have sent you is that, you know, please submit it in this format, you know, the same information. If you can submit this in this format, it becomes much simpler, you know, to select and nominate, you know, in the teams. So if you haven't yet done so, please contact Saurabh Agarwal if you haven't received it from him. Although we know that it's been sent to everybody, please take this from him and insert a photograph of yours, and then in the table, please fill in the relevant information. We are having the 10th National Food Safety and Quality Summit, where, you know, you would receive all award assessors who would be doing the assessment, who finally would take part in the assessment, would get a complimentary invitation to the plenary session of 3rd December, as well as the award ceremony. Of course, the master classes are chargeable. It's a 2-day program. We have the science behind food safety, where, you know, speakers, expositions are also invited. We have the Surakshit Khadya Abhiyan, where once again, you know, the assessors may be invited, you know, to take part in the Surakshit Khadya Abhiyan, where we are doing food safety advocacy programs, the walkathons all across the country. It is likely to start in July, and in case anyone wants to, you know, do some pro bono street food training, etc., we would be in touch with you. So in the appendix, we have provided the standard slides on code of conduct, responsibilities of the applicant company, role of the senior assessor, role of the assessor, appeal systems, on-site assessments, feedback report, and the executive summary, and submission of the report to the CI Secretariat, and also the assessment scope and the disclaimer, confidentiality oath. So with this, the webinar from my end, just the lecture has been completed. We are now open to your questions. So please put in your questions in the question box, and I will take it up one by one and respond to it.